Hi, welcome to our final video in our series on our social emotional learning toolkit. This final section focuses on using data for improvement, which is different than outcome assessment or program evaluation. It's really what are those smaller ways that we can gather information, help young people reflect and understand where they're at in their social emotional learning so we can adjust and improve our strategies going forward. And this section closes with a checklist to help you think about some considerations in determining what kind of social emotional outcome assessment tool you might be ready for. So if you drive a car, you're an expert, hopefully, at using data for improvement, and you do it all the time. That's because cars are designed to give you constant data to inform the many decisions that you need to make while you're driving. So dashboards create a feedback loop, right, between your behavior, the car, and the environment around you. And in order for data to be useful for improvement, it has to be timely, right? It has to give you information in the moment so you can make those decisions. So many times when we're talking about data, we think about formal measurements that we might use for program evaluations or to measure outcomes. This is like data with a big D, right? And you get it at the end of your trip. It's like the trip report that tells you how long your road trip was, your average speed, those kinds of things. But we're talking now about the little d data that gives us feedback so that we know how things are going and we can make adjustments as we go. So sometimes it's hard to figure out how to get that dashboard type data because it's one thing to define the skill and it's often harder to come up with easy ways to track it. So one way to do this is to use reflection activities to measure change. It's really a way to work smarter, not harder. So measurement can be used as a learning tool. And we get young people involved in the process to help ease that burden on program staff. So our first example is the Emoji Dashboard. You may remember earlier in the toolkit, we used this tool simply as a reflection tool, right? If we just wanted young people to think about where they were at with a particular social emotional skill, we'd have them take some time and reflect on that. But we can also think about how to use this as a tool for you as well to make adjustments. So by turning this reflection activity into something that happens consistently, whether that's daily or weekly, and it's written down and it's clearly defined, that information can become a useful data dashboard, right? So if you're collecting information from the same young people over time, you can start to collect that and determine like, hey, what was going on there on week 5, right? You start to get information that you can be using to make adjustments. Another item you'll find is our staff support card. This is a great way for youth to assess and provide feedback to the adults that support them in learning social and emotional skills. So it can be used at multiple points in time to track progress, and it's really intended as a low-stakes way to inform and strengthen staff practices. It's not a high-stakes performance evaluation kind of tool, right? But it's got 3 questions that connect to each of those ways of being from our model. Here's the 3 questions just supporting ways I am, right? So young people would say, staff respect me, is usually, sometimes, or rarely. Staff make sure everyone feels included. Staff encourage me to share my perspective, and they may give an example as well. So it's a useful way for staff to get anonymous feedback from young people about how we're doing in creating the learning environment for them to be building social emotional skills. The Candy Survey is another sort of simple, fun, and tasty way to gather data from young people. So depending on the questions, this activity can be used to gauge participants' satisfaction or their skill level, their comprehension. As youth respond to each question, they place the piece of candy that corresponds with their response, right? So you can see, you might develop questions like, my group works well together, or I handled my emotions well, I felt respected. And if you attach the different colors of, in this case, Starburst candy to strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree, they can use those candies to give you feedback, to reflect and give you feedback on how they feel about those statements. I will say you need to let young people know that the candy will be shared so that they're not casting certain color votes just because, depending on what their favorite flavor is, right? And postcards home is just another simple way for young people to reflect on what's been going on in the program, and as well as giving not just staff, but their families at home some information. It allows young people to kind of process quietly, reflect on their experiences and their future goals. The bullseye is a strategy to see if you're hitting the mark in your youth program, right? So a dartboard is used. It's really one of the more easy and versatile visuals to help young people really see and think about how on target were they. So plan questions that assess social emotional learning skills that youth are practicing. You can create a dashboard and label each of those rings. So for example, how well did your team make decisions together? And then you pass out sticky dots, or people can just make marks with markers as well. And you label then those dots if they're subgroups, though, so that if you care about. So for example, you could write a grade for each of the respondents, dot, things like that, if you want to sort it in another way. Otherwise, you can just simply have people put the dot, and you can see whether people feel like their team was doing very well or just okay or not so well. It gives you that real-time feedback. So are you trying to find creative ways to use social media in your program? You might try this strategy to build upon youth's technology habits. So technology can be a bridge to youth as well as a creative outlet. Use technology to evaluate the learning happening in your program, and note that this activity can be modified to be tech-based or not tech-based. So what you're going to do is asking people to create an Instagram story of your program lesson. So first, take or draw a picture, and then write a caption. What were the highlights? What did they learn? Maybe they'll add a hashtag to their post. So you can either have them draw this on paper or actually create an Instagram post or other social media post that you could be sharing around your program. Next, we've got the SMART SEL goal tracker. Many of you are familiar with SMART goals, but this is designed specifically to help you set, track, and reach their social emotional learning goals. So you choose an SEL competency to work on. Maybe it's self-control, teamwork, empathy, perseverance. And once young people are aware of the social emotional competency that they want to develop, you can encourage them to set an achievable SMART goal, right? Those are goals, again, that are specific, realistic, worthwhile, and have some way that they can be measured in a given time period. And they need to be developmentally appropriate as well. So for example, a kindergartner might set a goal of asking a peer to play at least once a week. A middle school student might carry out 25 intentional acts of kindness during the Great Kindness Challenge. A sophomore in high school might set a goal of checking in weekly with a friend who's having a hard time. So depending again on your goal, you just kind of identify the goal, and you have a tool to help track and check in. The last item then in the toolkit is the social and emotional learning assessment decision-making checklist. So you're going to use this checklist to evaluate formal social emotional learning assessment tools. It's really designed to help you evaluate the practical, logistical, and technical considerations for any tool that you're considering. The best assessment tool for your program is the one that aligns with your goals, and it's practical to use. So this checklist is designed to raise awareness of different considerations that may be important in your decision-making process. So use the checklist to determine your priorities, right? The cost, the time, the usefulness, the reporting aspects in selecting a tool. So not all checklist items are going to carry equal weight for every program. You need to decide which items are most important to you. But as you're thinking through, how is this tool going to help you improve outcomes for youth? Do you actually have the capacity, the money, the time to really use the tool? What's the reliability score of the tool? How valid is it, right? Those technical considerations are important as well. Okay. All right, let's close out this final video in our series with a couple more frequently asked questions related to data for improvement. So one question is just whether reflection and assessment really take away critical time from learning and activities. And I would say not necessarily, because what we know is that reflection is critical to allowing young people to really think about and apply their learning. So typically we spend a few minutes perhaps at the end of a session, right, having participants respond and reflect to some kind of reflection question. And if reflection was our only goal, we could have them do that individually or share in pairs. But if we want to benefit from that learning and be able to use it to improve our program, we need to capture it in some way. And so this is why the tools in this section often are asking participants to write down their reflection so that we can later gather it. We don't have to rely on our memory to recall what they said was the important learnings or think lessons learned. And so we are able to use their written responses later to help us really think about and improve the programming that we're delivering. I'd also say that writing things down really actually helps people have a chance to get the perspectives from everyone instead of just the most vocal participants, right? It's really a great way to ensure that we're hearing from all the perspectives in the room. So another question people ask us, a frequently asked question, is really around how do we decide when we're ready for a more formal social emotional learning outcome assessment? And this is very context dependent, right? I think that my first guidance is to really think about the purpose of assessment. So in your context, is it to give you information? Is it for accountability purposes? Is it really to communicate the impact? Obviously, it's sometimes multiple things, but to be really clear about what the reason for your assessment is can help you figure out what the best strategy might be. And then I would point people to that checklist for some of those really practical, logistical, and technical considerations that are really important to be thinking about so that you're making sure that you're choosing a tool that's going to work best in your context and provide you with the information that's most useful for you to use. All right, that wraps up the final video in our series, and we will close out by sharing the link to where you can download the Social Emotional Learning Toolkit. It's, again, a freely available resource, and I wish you all well and hope it proves to be useful for you as you support social emotional learning with the young people you work with. Thank you.